diary. I believe in true love. My knight in shining armor is out there somewhere, and I'm gonna find him. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. You want it? Love, 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 love. Want it? Love, 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 love. The boys always my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake.
From 2 of the 6 writers of Scary Movie comes the question.
Who's thirsty?
No.
Grantula's just embarrassed because he lost his virginity to the housekeeper.
What does it take to make the ultimate date movie?
Idiot. Hell no, I won't marry you. Gosh. Gosh. Gosh.
A little hitch.
Dear Hitch?
Do I look like Will Smith to you? Yo, fellas, time to pimp her out.
A meeting with the parents.
That's Jason.
Taught him how to do that.
And a lot of planning.
I'm Jello. I'm here to plan your dream wedding.
This February,
Is it too late to crash the wedding?
romantic comedies finally get
You're beautiful.
what's coming to them.
It's just a slumber party.
Date movie.
Yeah! What? Okay! Get it crunk!
Do you get all the references yet? Do we have to keep shoving this in your face like I'm shoving my face into the camera right now? I apologize for that, but I'm sorry. Like, good lord, that trailer is just a perfect amalgamation of everything that is wrong with Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer movies. I mean, you have Allison Hannigan starring as a woman who is unhappy, she's overweight, she spends forever working at her father's diner and believes she will always be lonely. Then it's until she meets Grant Fuck Your Daughter, comedy. Before they have their dream wedding, they must meet each other's parents and survive the scheming Andy, who's played by Sophie Monk. And yeah, you could see all the references in there, and that's literally what they are in this movie. References. There's no storyline in particular here, except the main one being My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Meet the Parents, a little bit of Bridget Jones's Diary, but they throw in stuff like Hitch. You know, you see in the trailer, Hitch, The Wedding Planner. You know, there's a little bit of Kill Bill in there. There's The Lord of the Rings, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's just all over this movie. And as I said before, this is probably the only movie where it at least makes sense for a spoof movie in general here. This is on the level of something like A Spy Hard, which coincidentally was also written by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, except that one that had Leslie Nielsen in it, but this does not. And there's a lot of good people involved in this movie. Allison Hannigan can be really good, you know. Eddie Griffin can be funny at times, you know. Tony Cox can be very funny. You got Fred Willard, Jennifer Coolidge. I mean, there's a lot of really good talent in here, but unfortunately, that's all this movie is just reference after reference after reference. And like I said before, this is the most sane film that these guys have done, because it gets much worse as we go along here. I mean, it literally does get worse and worse and worse. You know, epic movie, disaster movie, Meet the Spartans, Vampires Suck. I mean, these movies keep getting progressively worse because these two guys knew that if they can just keep making movies that are relatable for the time, but will be dated almost immediately, and idiots will still go to see it because there's literally nothing else for there. And this is the same kind of humor. This is the same kind of strategy that Sony used for, like, what we talked about a couple weeks ago with When a Stranger Calls. Like, if we just put bad horror movies out there, get the money on the first weekend, and then we'll be done after that. Like, we'll be set, because we make these movies for such small budgets that we have no intentions on ever making anything of noteworthiness is after the fact. And yeah, this was a small budgeted film, and guess what? It made 4 times its budget, which means that keep trotting out the terrible movies, and like I said, it's only going to get worse from this point forward. Enjoy this, because yeah, this is the best of the best. This is the best of the bunch, which even then isn't saying a whole lot, because yeah, everything that's wrong with these 2 directors in this movie. It's not a funny movie. It's not a clever movie. It wastes a lot of good talent in here. It's a bad movie. It's a bad movie, and it's like I said, it's the most tolerable of the movies that we're going to get to with these guys involved in it. So buckle up, because it's only going to get worse from here. So.
Prince, we're all over the crime scene.
We haven't got a case, Roy.
Well, just make one. We order a psychiatrist to say she's a danger. Gotta make sure we get somebody good and tough. Dr. Glass, this is Catherine. No?
So is this where we're gonna do it?
I see you're a writer. What do you write about?
Oh, the sexual, the violent, the basic instincts.
Sorry, not allowed to smoke in here.
You know what I like about you? You enjoy being in control. Like me.
I'm not the one who's on trial for murder.
Not yet. Do I make you uncomfortable?
Careful, Michael. She's trying to seduce you.
Did you kill her?
If I said I didn't, would you believe me?
Everything that comes out of her mouth's a lie, even the truth's a lie.
What exactly do you want?
I wanted it from the first moment I saw you, and you did too. How do you picture it, Doctor?
I believe Mr. Mel's behavior is driven by what we might call a risk addiction.
I suspect the only limit for her would be her own death. The judge let her go.
I'll make you a bet.
She'll do it again.
What are you doing here?
What you said about me being addicted to risk, isn't that what turns you on?
Oh my god, we get it! You like to fuck a lot! That's literally what the whole trailer is, and that's what the whole movie is! Like, the original Basic Instinct is still the best erotic thriller of all time, because it has an engaging mystery to it. It has an engaging concept to it. This is an example of what happens when you take one of the few bright spots in a really bad genre and completely just ruin it for the namesake. Because, let me tell you something, this movie is absolutely horrible. I've never talked about this movie in full. It's been a running gag, like I said, on Movie Stop. Every time I go up to Barnes & Noble and I see it in the store, and I would say, oh, nobody's going to buy it. Well, I'm going to tell you why nobody's going to buy it, because the movie is absolute garbage. You have a novelist and suspected serial killer Catherine Trammell, once again played by Sharon Stone, who's once again in trouble with the authorities, this time in London. Now, Scotland Yard appoints psychiatrist Dr. Michael Glass, played by David Morrissey, to evaluate her. As with SFPD detective Nick Curran in the first film, Dr. Glass becomes a victim of Trammell's psychological manipulation. And as you see in the rest of the trailer there, her manipulation is, she is, like I said before, she wants to fuck a lot. I mean, that's literally the whole movie, and it's not even hiding it this time around. Like, that scene where she's slinking down in the chair in front of her with the legs crossed to the side, it's just like, there's a whole lot of that in the movie, just throwing it in your face. Have you gotten the point yet? Have you gotten the point yet? Do you know what the twist is going to be? Like, is this annoying you right now? Because let me tell you something, that's the whole movie. That's the entire movie. And the worst part about it is, the mystery in here is absolutely awful. Like, you don't even need to know where this movie's going to go to know exactly where you think it's going to go. If you think you have an idea of what's going to happen, it happens in the movie, and it's not done well at all. This is a movie that Sharon Stone made because this is 2006. Everyone's kind of tired of her. She made one bad movie after another after 1995, and then like her career just completely fell off the radar. After that one time she was nominated for an Oscar for Casino, that career took a huge nosedive almost immediately because she just started picking one bad movie after another, and this was a last-ditch effort to save whatever was left of her career at the time. And the movie that we have here is one of the most blandest, most uninspiring, most uncomfortable, most unnerving movies is erotic thrillers you will ever see. There is nothing sexy about this movie. There's nothing engaging about this movie whatsoever. This movie was made specifically because of money. Because the first film was such a classic movie in 1992, nonetheless. Like, if you wanted to make this movie in, I don't know, 94, 95, just a couple years after the original film, it probably would have worked better back then, but this is 2006. This is 14 years after the genre that this movie started fell off a crater because everyone was doing the exact same thing that Basic Instinct was doing. Hell, Sharon Stone was even in some of these knockoff Basic Instinct movies, like Sliver, the Sylvester Stallone one, The Specialist. There's a couple of other. There's another one too I'm thinking of, but those were the two big ones, Sliver and The Specialist. I can't think of the third one, but yeah, this movie is bad. This is a horrible, horrible movie that has no reason to exist except because of the name, Basic Instinct. Now, to this movie's credit, the only thing that this movie did that was salvageable and made it worth it was the fact that this was my first time ever seeing Basic Instinct. I wanted to see and it was because I had it came in a 2-pack when I saw Basic Instinct 2 in there. It's just like, oh, Basic Instinct is in there, the original. I've heard it's a great movie. Might as well go check it out. And yeah, the original Basic Instinct is still pretty awesome. The sequel is absolutely horrible. But this is up there with some of the worst sequels ever made. And now you know why I always say that Blu-ray at Barnes & Noble will never ever go away. No matter how hard you try to push it out there, no matter how much it is to buy, nobody is going to buy Basic Instinct 2. You'd be better off finding any other bad movie in that movie section, and Basic Instinct 2 will be there. Even if Barnes & Noble one day decides to get rid of all physical media, that one copy of Basic Instinct 2 will be there for the remainder of that time the store's open, because nobody is going to buy it. Ever. So yeah, do I need to say more about this movie? Basic Instinct 2 fucking sucks. Plain and simple.
Imagine having the ability to do anything you want, but the more you use the power, the more it weakens you.
Now, a member of the Fifth family has returned
Have you met Chase? We'll just transfer them.
to seek revenge
You can't beat me, so you got
and destroy their covenant.
something's wrong.
Tonight on the WB, Metrosexual Wizards. That's pretty clever.
They're gonna make you their wiatch.
So, of course, that's not a clip from the actual movie itself. Well, it is, but that's from the Real Deal review from before Corey and the gang went to do Spill.com and then later DoubleToasted.com, because that's pretty much the only thing you really need from this movie to get some humor out of it. Just watching them lambast the hell out of that movie, because rightfully so, because, yeah. This is a bad movie. 4 best friends, young warlocks of the same coven who all share the same secret, magic power, suddenly have to protect themselves from a stranger, another warlock just like them, who has come to their town to destroy their coven after a 300-year hate. And, yeah, as they say in that commercial, in that clip there, this is something that would have been seen on the WB easily, or on the CW, I guess, at that time, because, my God, this is a terrible movie. This is a really horrible film, and honestly, you really don't need to hear me say it, because, yeah, everyone has said about this. This is directed by Rennie Harlan, by the way. You know, the guy that made badass movies like Die Hard 2, The Last Boy Scout, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and this is what he's been reduced to now, these terrible movies, and he's been on a streak of these bad movies. Driven, Mindhunters, Exorcist: The Beginning, and it gets worse and worse as we go along, because, yeah, this guy has not made a good movie since the 1990s, and that streak has continued ever since, because he hasn't made a good movie since then. And this is definitely not one of those good movies whatsoever. You have a cast that includes teen actors who we would easily see on a CW or WB show, but let's add in this element of these, because, like, there's a lot of homoeroticism in this movie, man. This is just a ridiculously stupid movie that even shows that the CW and the WB had around that time look butch by comparison to this garbage, and this is garbage. This is a lousy movie where it's nothing but watching these teenage guys, by the way, just walking around half-dressed, wearing these Speedos, or as they said in the Real Deal review, nut huggers, and there's literally shower scenes that are literally nothing but watching these guys in showers. There's no women that get naked in this. They try to tease you a little bit with a nipple, but that's about it. If a nipple is the thing you're looking for an arousal thing from this movie, then clearly you're looking at the wrong movie in general here. This movie is like, even its target audience that this was trying to go for looked at this movie and go like, oh fuck no, we're not going back to this movie. And the people who didn't see it goes like, oh fuck no, I'm not watching this. Yeah, this is a bad movie. I don't think I need to say too much more about how terrible this movie is, because yeah, it's a bad movie. I can't believe it was even the #1 movie at the box office, but it was, unfortunately. But
they were the first Americans to fight in the skies.
I just watch you guys day after day, wondering how you do it.
From the producer of Independence Day and The Patriot comes a true story of bravery and honor. Also, Flyboys 2-disc collector's edition with historical footage and behind-the-scenes extras.
I had no idea that it was going to be like that. I'm not going to leave you.
Flyboys, on a Tuesday.
see, that should have been the first warning right there. This is done by the same people that did Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich, of course, who produces this movie. This is directed by Tony Bill, and one of the writers is David S. Ward, who were great people back in the day, but around this time they were really struggling to just keep their names in Hollywood. And yeah, this one didn't help out much at all. So, set during World War I, the film follows the enlistment training and combat experiences of a group of young Americans who volunteer to become fighter pilots in the Lafayette Escadrille. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I might be not, but Lafayette Escadrille. I'm just going with that. The 124th Air Squadron, formed by the French in 1916. It deals with the themes of friendship, racial prejudice, revenge, and love. Unfortunately, the movie itself is not that great, and when you're making a movie like Pearl Harbor look more enjoyable and more entertaining than this, then you really are making a bad case for yourself, because, my God, this is a terrible movie, man. James Franco, man, just like pick these really bad movies after Spider-Man, like this, Annapolis, just movies that probably could have been good, but they have nothing of value whatsoever to them. And this is a film that has got zero effort put into it, nothing of value, nothing about this film is worth it in the end. And yeah, it's just a really bad movie. It's just not an entertaining film. It's boring. It's lifeless. These actors in this movie should have been involved in something so much better than this, and just this is the end result we got here. A film that probably was set to be a big Oscar contender for MGM, but they realized how terrible it was, so they dumped it off just before we got the big awards push. But yeah, you can avoid this one like the plague. So.
You love weddings.
Actually, no, that made me pretty depressed.
There's nothing like the happiest day of someone else's life
This should have been us. I took it wrong.
to make you
I've been
realize
thinking about my life lately, and there are no more surprises.
No.
what's meant to last.
You are an enormous loser.
Only a loser could love a loser.
Zach Braff,
She's the last one on my case.
The Last Kiss. Rated R. Starts September 15th.
Yeah, this was Zach Braff's big follow-up to Garden State, and unfortunately, not as good. In fact, not even good whatsoever. The plot revolves around a young couple and their friends struggling with adulthood and issues of relationships and commitment. Zach Braff is married to Jacinda Barrett, and he decides to go out on this relationship with this other woman, played by Rachel Bilson from the OC, and it just essentially creates chaos and havoc all around, and basically half of the rest of the movie is literally Zach Braff standing outside of Jacinda Barrett's door asking him to forgive him, and no joke, that is literally the rest of this movie. This movie is so bad. This is a poorly put together movie on so many levels, with a top talented cast all around here. Zach Braff, Jacinda Barrett, Casey Affleck, Rachel Bilson. You have Harold Ramis in here. Tony Goldwyn directed this. Blythe Danner, Tom Wilkinson. A lot of really good talent in this movie. And the script was written by Paul Haggis, who just won an Oscar for directing Crash. And with all that talent involved in this movie, you would think that there would be something interesting and something more engaging here, but no, there's just not. The first half of the movie isn't bad. It's just bland, it's mediocre, it's nothing incredible. And then the second half happens when, all hell breaks loose and Zach Braff is trying to get back with Jacinda Barrett, and that's the rest of the movie. I'm not even kidding you. When I saw this in the theaters back in the day, I was so bored by the end of it. I just couldn't take it anymore. I was just like, I was literally on the cusp of walking out of a movie. I'd never walked out of a movie at any point before this movie, but this would have been the first one I would have ever walked out on, because it was just getting so boring and so pretentious. As soon as that last part of the movie happened, it was just like, come on, just get over it already. Just get on with it already. Like, shit or get off the pot is what I wanted to say. And then when it comes to the inevitable conclusion, I was just kind of like, you gotta be kidding me. You made me sit there for that? This is not a good movie. And it's a shame because, like I said before with Garden State was that one big, really good movie that Zach Braff did. And then after that, just whatever movie he put himself in, he just could never find that magic that he did with Garden State. This, The X, Wish You Were Here, Going in Style, all these movies that had potential to them, and they just couldn't work in any way, shape, or form. And the movie just ends up being an overall mess of a film. And this is definitely an example of where the ship began to really come down. And it's just like, yeah, this is not a very good movie. And it's a disappointment, too, especially coming off a Garden State. I really wanted to see what Zach Braff can do after that. And for this to be his big follow-up film, and this is the end result of it, yeah, it really did not come together well. So, yeah, a hard skip on The Last Kiss. Just a bad movie overall.
There is a creature. It's not in the closet. It's not under the bed. It's in the backyard. Cleveland, run!
What's happening? I thought it was going to be safe. Something went wrong. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you.
Who's afraid of a big bad wolf? Lady in the Water. Rated PG-13. Starts July 21st.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most pretentious M. Night Shyamalan movie you will ever see. And trust me, that's saying a lot. The film's plot concerns the superintendent of a Philadelphia apartment complex, played by Paul Giamatti, who discovers a young woman in the swimming pool, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Gradually, he and his neighbors learn that she is a water nymph, or a narf, whose life is in danger from a vicious wolf-like mystical creature called a scrunt, that tries to keep her from returning to her watery blue world. Yeah, this is about as pretentious of a movie as it gets. It was so bad that Disney, who had been supporting M. Night Shyamalan all the way back to Wide Awake in 98, this was originally supposed to be released by Touchstone Pictures, just like his other movies were, but the executives at Disney didn't like the film, they didn't get the movie in general, and Shyamalan got pissed. Like, he thought that Disney no longer valued individualism when Disney was willing to completely fund the film regardless. And, yeah, Shyamalan actually rejected the offer and took it over to Warner Brothers, and they thought, the joke's on you, this is going to be a big hit. And now, The Village was not a big hit to begin with, and, yeah, this definitely was not a big hit either. This is about as, like I said, it's about as pretentious and as self-indulgent as you get, right to the point where M. Night Shyamalan himself casts himself in a big role in this movie. And yet Bob Balaban, who's there to just do nothing but be the pretentious critic, and like all these characters are so bland and so boring and so one-note, and the movie just, it doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be taken seriously? Does it want to be seen as over the top? You can't tell it all, and nothing about this movie is magical. Nothing about this movie is amazing. Nothing about this movie is incredible. There's nothing about this movie that works at all. It's a bleak movie that is so bland, so boring, so much of a waste of your goddamn time. There's nothing of value to it whatsoever. And there's a good cast involved in this movie. You got Jeffrey Wright also in here, Freddie Rodriguez, Jared Harris. A lot of very good talent involved in this movie. But unfortunately, they ain't given anything to do. Like, this movie is so stupid. It's so ridiculous. Like, it has no idea what kind of a movie it wants to be. And quite frankly, it doesn't really care at all. And people were not that stupid this time around. People saw the bullshit and they didn't go see it. It was a big failure at the box office. It made back its budget, but didn't make much afterwards. I mean, it was a film that quickly came and went. And you would think that M. Night Shyamalan would have realized, these last two movies I made have not been successful movies. Maybe I should take a step back and realize that realize that maybe, just maybe, my craft is about to go out the window. But no, not in my Shyamalan. No. We still got at least 7 more years of this garbage before he eventually returns to form with The Vision in 2015. Actually, 9 years if you want to be more specific. But yeah, fuck this movie, man. This is a terrible movie. Avoid this one like the plague. So.
Hello, my name is Violet. I was born into a world you may not understand. The government lab discovered a virus to create faster and stronger soldiers. We became a threat.
I want them hunted down and killed.
Those of us that survived extinction started fighting back. Come and get it.
Ultraviolet, rated PG-13, 8 years, March 3rd.
Would that trailer have given you any indication this movie was about vampires? Sort of. I mean, it's essentially another Equilibrium, because in this movie, Milla Jovovich is a woman who's infected with a fictional vampire-like disease and lives in a future dystopia where anyone infected with the contagious disease is immediately sentenced to death. But with the help of advanced martial arts skills, a group of rebel hemophages, and a boy named Six whose blood may contain a cure for the disease, Violet goes on a mission to overthrow the futuristic governor and defeat Ferdinand Daxus. I mean, quite literally, everything about this movie is so similar to Equilibrium. And Equilibrium was a bad movie. At least I thought it was a bad movie. So, let's take that same director and put him with the most overrated action star of all time, Milla Jovovich, which, I'm sorry, I hate this woman's acting. She might be a sweet person in real life, but I'm sorry, this woman sucks at being an action heroine. I mean, every time I see her in one of these Resident Evil movies, or the movie like this movie in particular, like, she never comes off as a threatening person whatsoever. Like, she never comes off as somebody who's like, take me like, she comes off as a person that's just thinks she's threatening, and then when she actually gets in your face, it's just like, take me seriously. Like, I can never take her seriously whenever she's in these movies or the Resident Evil movies. And this is the pure definition of why she should never be taken seriously as a threatening person in any way, shape, or form. Like, whether she's the hero or the bad guy, because good lord, she's terrible in this movie. Like, I've not seen her in one movie that I've seen her that I remember that I actually like her in. Like, she barely got by in The Fifth Element, but other than that, everything I've seen her in has just been absolutely horrible. Nothing against the actress herself. She's probably a nice person in real life, but I'm sorry, when it comes to movies like this is just not her crack cup of tea. At least, again, my opinion. I am very, very limited in that category, but, yeah, she does not add to anything in this movie in general. It doesn't help that the movie itself is just, like I said, a ripoff of Equilibrium. Like, it literally takes note for note everything that Equilibrium has, except change it around so it doesn't. It's like when you know when your best friend's copying your homework in high school, and it's just like, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, sure. Just go ahead and change some things around so it doesn't look like you cheated or anything. Like, that's what this movie feels like. That's what this movie is like, because they literally take so many beats by Equilibrium in this movie that it's just hard not to see those things, and it's just like it's just not a good movie either. Like, visually, it's really it's too stylistic to look at in a bad way too. Like, these aren't even impressive looking visuals that could save the film in general, but these are just bad looking visuals in general here. It feels like you're watching a PS2 game blown up for the big screen. Like, this is a bad movie. This is a really, really bad movie. I don't think I need to say too much more about it. Like, everything that could go wrong with this movie went wrong, and yeah, it's a movie that has been largely forgotten, thank God. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's not a good movie. It's a terrible movie. Avoid it like the plague. yeah, it really was not the beginning of the summer. And as much as they want to tell you that, this movie, you could kind of predict what was going to happen after you saw the film. But before that, everyone thought this was going to be the big hit of the summer because simply of the title alone, and I'm not even kidding. Before the film came out, there was a lot of buzz about the film. Large fan bases online made this movie an internet phenomenon. This was kind of the first viral marketed movie that really was a success at first, because people saw the casting, saw the title, saw the premise, and thought that this was going to be one of the greatest movies of all time, one of the greatest bad movies of all time. And New Line Cinema went all in on it. They actually had to reshoot a lot of scenes, especially the scene where the title of the movie isn't even mentioned one bit. No joke. The famous line in this movie, the title of the movie, doesn't come in until the reshoots come in, because they didn't have it in the original film. And then the film came out and was a massive flop at the box office. It was not the big hit that everyone was expecting it to be. It made its budget back. It made it back its $32 million budget. But at the same time, it was not the hit that the studio was really hoping for. But the plot of this movie is you have the events of dozens of venomous snakes being released on a passenger plane in an attempt to kill a trial witness. So, typical B-movie setting here. This is directed by David R. Ellis, who's directed Cellular, Final Destination 2. He's directed a couple movies that we talked about on the show before, and part of the reason why the film doesn't work, I think pretty much says it right there from the beginning of from the beginning alone. Like, it's a movie that is literally called Snakes on a Plane, and I think because the film had so much to live up to with that title, and you know, it really lost what it was trying to accomplish. What was the end result of this movie supposed to be? Was it supposed to be a guilty pleasure movie? Was it supposed to be a film that was supposed to be taken too seriously or too over the top? It really was way too hard to figure out. And when I watched it the first time, I really did not enjoy this movie. I thought it was really, really boring. I thought it wasn't exciting. I thought it wasn't fun overall. And it just wasn't fun at all. Like, it wasn't even fun in a bad B-movie type of way, per se. Like, even the scene in the movie where he says the line, you know, enough is enough. I've had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. Like, okay, that's fun overall, but it's forced, man. It's really, really forced. And even so, it's not even that fun to watch. Like, I'd rather listen to the TV edit version of it, which is so stupid. It works in its own very special way, you know. I've had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. I mean, come on. That was much more clever than the line they actually used in the actual movie. I mean, this is really, really stupid. This is a terrible movie. It's not even a good, so bad it's good type of movie. It's a bad movie that's just a bad movie that was hoping for dear life that it could live up to the overhype that everyone's made it out to have, and it just couldn't do it, man. It was a film that was just so badly put together, so not inspiring by any means necessary, not fun in a guilty pleasure type of way either. I didn't like it when it first came out. It still has not held up over 20 years later. You wonder why nobody really ever talks about this movie anymore. Yeah, kind of hard not to see why this film didn't take off as much as they wanted to. Actually, no. What am I saying? It's pretty easy why this didn't take off, because the movie ain't that damn good to begin with. So, yeah, that's Snakes on a Plane. Really didn't like it.
In the peaceful town of Cloverdale, Dr. Stephen Finch was Mr. Christmas.
This is a busy time of year, so we have to have a game plan. All must-sing caroling requests to be submitted in writing.
Until the competition moved in.
Who moves in the middle of the night?
I'm Buddy Hall. We just moved in across the street.
These are my babies. Can I live here? Daddy, come look. You can see every house in the country from space.
Where's our house?
You can't see our house.
Just hoping that one day I'd do something big. Buddy.
Around here, I'm the Christmas guy.
I don't think so. Now, they're going head-to-head.
Watch and learn.
For the holidays.
That's gonna swell up.
But the holidays...
Got the next 5 years of trees all lined up.
How'd you like to chop it down with my chainsaw?
Might not be big enough.
Does anyone smell gas?
For the both of them.
I guess I'm the new Christmas guy. This isn't over yet.
You're gonna cut his power, aren't you? SpongeBob, this is SquarePants. What? He's coming! This is
the best Christmas ever.
We're gonna settle this like men.
They're acting like a bunch of 12-year-olds.
You want lights? I'll give you lights. Oh, gosh. You sure you've been watering that thing? It went up awfully fast.
This November.
You're gonna stand here and you're gonna work it out.
Now that is something we could agree on.
Hey, baby, who's your daddy?
Dad?
Oh, God. I'm your daddy. I'm your daddy.
Regency Enterprises presents Danny DeVito.
I really want my house to be seen from space.
Matthew Broderick.
I like the way you've duct taped the antlers to their heads.
Apparently, reindeer are not indigenous to the region. Oh, I didn't see that coming.
In the brightest Christmas story ever.
I knew it!
That could have ended badly.
Deck the halls.
Where are my clothes?
I had to get your body temperature up, so I zipped this into the sleeping bag. Trust me, it works.
This movie sucks. I mean, I don't even need to give you a full explanation of why it sucks, because I've already given a full explanation of how this movie sucks. No joke, as of the time of recording this, I just did the worst, I'm doing my worst movies of all time list on the Reviewing Network Talks About, and this was right up in the top 20 of my worst movies of all time. I think it was actually, if it wasn't top 20, it's definitely in my top 30, and I just did a video on that, so whatever place it was, you can go check that video out in the corners, you can get a full review of why I hate this movie so much. But to sum it up real quickly, Danny DeVito moves into Matthew Broderick's neighborhood. Matthew Broderick is seen as Mr. Christmas, which, like, who the hell calls himself Mr. Christmas? Like, but, you know, Danny DeVito has this idea that he wants to be known for something, and he wants his house to be seen from space, which makes no sense because his neighbor's house can be seen from space, but not Danny DeVito's house. The whole movie is just a clusterfuck, and like I said, I delved deeper into my video here about how bad this movie is, because this really is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. This is up there with Christmas with the Cranks for one of the worst Christmas movies of all time. I mean, that's how bad this movie is, and not even somebody like Kristen Chenoweth, who has the only legitimately good scene in the movie with her singing at the end of it, and even then, like, it's just me trying to find a needle in a haystack. Is a hay in a needle stack, if you will, if you want to paraphrase a SpongeBob moment. But you get the idea here. You can watch my original reviews to get the full context of why I hate this movie in general. But this is a bad movie. It's one of the worst comedies I've ever seen. One of the worst Christmas movies I've ever seen. One of the worst movies of all time.
The new breed of heroes.
Tucker!
Yes!
And they're about to get a blast from the past.
Just like riding a bike.
His name is Zoom, and he used to be just like you.
On August 11th,
We face an imminent threat.
Is there anyone else who can face me?
Come on, guys.
the real mission begins.
Somebody call for a rescue party?
They're becoming a real team.
Tim Allen, Courtney Cox, Chevy Chase, and Rip Torn.
Yeah.
Soon, rated PG.
I have no idea why I thought this was going to be any good. I literally went to go see this movie. Maybe it's because I got suckered into Tim Allen being in the movie. I mean, I saw a lot of Tim Allen movies. I saw The Shaggy Dog. I thought that was pretty good. Santa Claus 2, Santa Claus 1, Toy Story movies. I mean, I've been to a lot of bad Tim Allen movies too. Joe Somebody. But at least Joe Somebody at least had a purpose to it existing. This, you ever watch a movie and you feel like there's so many things that people wanted to rip off of this? Like, I feel like Sony Pictures saw the success of Sky High the year before and said, we want to make our own Sky High movie, and we want to get the director of the Garfield movie, which was successful 2 years ago. Surely we'll have a success here, and not so much. This is based off of a children's book of the same name, which features a former superhero played by Tim Allen, who is dragged into training 4 superpowered youths to become superheroes and combat an approaching threat. Let's throw in a little Fantastic Four in there, too. Why not? Because why not? These are the most successful things we've had over the last couple of years, so clearly this is going to be a success, right? No. Not at all. And yeah, I was stupid to go see this movie coming out because, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really, really bad. I mean, this is a terrible movie. Like, you could tell they were trying so hard to create the next Sky High, and it just fails on so many levels. The comedy isn't funny. There's no satirical edge to it. You can tell this was a movie that was being made by a studio that just needed something to get out there for the families and realized that it was garbage, and they put it out in the middle of August because at that time, you know, kids' movies in August didn't do very well. This thing had a $76 million budget. Where did $76 million go for this movie? I mean, this is pretty bad. This is really, really bad. This is a horrible, horrible movie. It's not funny. It's not clever. The visual effects look absolutely terrible. The jokes are awful. It's bad, watered-down kids' humor. There's nothing fun about this movie whatsoever. There's nothing of value here at all. It's a waste of time on so many levels. You could see much better superhero movies for kids, like Sky High or The Incredibles. Like, anything else would be way better than this garbage right here. And this is a garbage movie. If this isn't on, this probably isn't on my worst movies of all time list, but if it isn't, it's pretty damn close. I mean, I thought it was at first, but no, it's got to be really damn close, though. But, not much more to say about this one, except, yeah, avoid Zoom like the plague. Plain and simple.
Mr. Williams?
Georgia Bird.
You need to get out of here. Don't be close.
Has always done the safe thing.
I suggest you get with the program.
But that's about to change.
What? Remember you said life was too short to live the way I do? I quit.
This January,
We will laugh more, see the world.
she's doing everything.
I'm going base jumping tomorrow.
Queen Latifah.
I've been waiting my whole life to do something like this. Wait, I gotta use the bathroom.
Last Holiday, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, January 13th.
Yeah, the marketing campaign really does not do a good job of selling this movie in general here. If you actually watch the movie in general, it's much better than the trailers let on here. You have Queen Latifah as a humble department store assistant who is told that she has a very rare brain condition and only has a few weeks to live. And she promptly decides to spend the rest of her fundings on a luxury hotel in Europe before she dies. And this is one of those movies, well, for one thing, it's a film that was very much in production hell for so many years. Like, if you go online and find, like, an old Paramount 1980, I think it's 85, reel of all the movies they had coming out, which most of those movies did eventually get made, maybe not by Paramount, but they did eventually make it to the big screen. I think there was a Jetsons movie that they were talking about doing in there, a Peter Pan movie. Those films eventually got made through other studios. This was being brought back all the way back then in 1985. They wanted John Candy for the role in this and had him attached for several years, but after he died in 94, it essentially went over to Queen Latifah, and the end result is the movie that we have here. It's a movie that is definitely a lot better than the marketing puts on, and it's one of my favorite movies to watch when I've had a really bad day at work or just a bad day in general. For some reason, I could just pop this movie in and just, you know, it's a good comfort food movie. Yeah, it's a movie about Queen Latifah possibly dying, even though really, if you watch the film in general, she isn't dying in general, but she is a person that just wants to, you know, she thinks she has little time left on this earth, and she says, you know what? If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go out swinging. So I'm gonna go take all my funds out of my bank account and just go on this exuberant holiday, and yeah. And just go over, and where she goes to, she really just is like she really turns to the hotel people that she works with, or that she's around, or they give her like a, what am I trying to say here? She kind of influences the hotel workers that are at this building, you know, like, do things you haven't done before, you know, live your life like there's no tomorrow, because for her, there really isn't going to be a tomorrow. That's what I was trying to say beforehand. I didn't know how to put it together, and they never really put it together that, you know, so, you know, she's gonna die in a few weeks, and only one person in this movie knows that, and that's Gerard Depardieu, who actually does a really good job in here playing the chef in this, and she does form a nice little friendship between the two of them. I think that works very well. I think everybody in this movie is really good. LL Cool J plays a nice love interest to Queen Latifah's character. You have great talents like Giancarlo Esposito is very good in here. Timothy Hunt and Alicia Vitt are very good in this movie. There's a lot of really good talent involved in here. They've got really good writers in here. These are the writers that wrote Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman. And yeah, the movie, like, I think what works about it for me personally is that I think we can all agree that if we knew that we didn't have that much time left on this earth, like, this is exactly what we do. We take whatever money we have in our bank accounts, take it out, just go out and explore the world while we have as little time left on this earth as we can. And who knows, maybe you might inspire people by doing it too. And yeah, there are some slapsticky comedy moments in here that can be very hit and miss most of the time, but it does have a nice heart to it. It does have a nice message at the end when it's all said and done. It's a really good movie, man. I really like this one a lot. It's one, like I said, I always go back to it if I've had a really bad day and just want to watch something to take my mind off of things. This is that movie for me. I love this movie so much. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check it out. Last Holiday.
Those who are responsible will be held accountable. The time has come for you to live without fear.
I'm ready.
This country stands on the edge of oblivion.
Remember why they need us.
Kill him.
My turn.
I suddenly had this feeling that everything was connected. We're all part of it. Are we ready for it?
The only verdict is vengeance.
Remember, the 5th of November, which was originally the marketing campaign, but this movie was supposed to open up on November 4th of 2005. No joke, this was from the end of the original teaser trailer.
Remember the 5th of November.
Can't imagine why they didn't want to include it when they moved the film to March, but I digress. Viva Vendetta, this is of course set against the futuristic landscape of a totalitarian Britain, and tells the story of a mild-mannered young woman played by Natalie Portman, who's rescued from a life-and-death situation by a masked vigilante known as V, played by Hugo Weaving. Incomparably charismatic and ferociously skilled in the art of combat and deception, V ignites a revolution where he detonates 2 London landmarks and takes over the government-controlled airways, urging his fellow citizens to rise up against tyranny and oppression. As Edie uncovers the truth about V's mysterious background, she also discovers the truth about herself, and emerges as an unlikely ally in the culmination of this plot to bring freedom and justice back to a society fraught with cruelty and corruption. Clearly something like this will never happen in real life. But all that aside, this is a pretty friggin' awesome movie, man. It's a slick, solid action movie. Easily the best adaptation of an Alan Moore graphic novel, and kind of like with the history of violence, the film gets a lot more of its interesting moments from its main character, in this case Hugo Weaving's V, and all throughout the movie, you're wondering what is up with his character. Why does he have this resentment against the government? And as the film plays out, we're invested in why he has these theories, why he's so cold and bitter, and why he so wants to help Natalie Portman out in the process. And on top, he's just a friggin' badass, man. Hugo Weaving just kills this role and plays it so well to a T. You see the ways he actually tries to save Evie when she's in peril, and you're amazed at how well he can handle these weapons and all, and just beat the shit out of everybody around him. And even Natalie Portman's character is very interesting in here. She shows that she can handle herself in these big action pictures, like that. Aside from like great dramaticals we've seen her in with Garden State and Closer, her backstory is so tragic, and throughout the entire film, you're just waiting for something good to happen to her, and it never comes. It's basically the equivalent of a gender reversal of Chiwetel Ejiofor in 12 Years a Slave. Like, it feels like it's that kind of a film in general. There's also great performances by Stephen Ray and John Hurt. The Wachowski brothers do a good job of adapting the graphic novel to the big screen. They make enough changes that work better to the film to run it more smoothly without leaving anything important or adding elements to a story that could be seen as absolutely pointless. The action sequences are top-notch, one of the best climaxes you'll ever see, and not much more to say about this movie in general, man, but I never really hear anybody complain about the film, but I do have a problem with how Alan Moore took the news that V for Vendetta was turning into a movie. He read the script, he refused to watch the movie, and he tried to distance himself from it so much that he had his name removed from all the credits of the movie. I mean, I really think Alan Moore should have at least watched it, because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen from Hell, you can understand him being upset with this works being turned into bad movies, but he didn't even watch V for Vendetta, and I think that if he'd watched the film, he probably would have liked it, because it does stay very true to the original source material. Even if he doesn't like it, he would have at least had to admit that it stays true to the original source material compared to other adaptations. But, of course, Watchmen comes out after this, and he's not going to have good things to say about that one either. But then again, he might have a point on that one. But bottom line here, There's really nothing else more I can say about V for Vendetta that hasn't already been said. It's a great film. It stays very close to the source material. Has a great cast, a lot of good action, surprisingly good amount of drama to it. Good script, great direction. It's just an incredible movie. I can't recommend it enough. V for Vendetta, a classic, classic film.
Shoot me.
Come on. No, I can't
Do it. How'd you like that?
Well, how do you do it?
Magic. I'll perform this feat in a manner never before seen by yourselves or any other audience anywhere in the world.
The audience loved it.
This trick is top-notch.
We need to celebrate.
A real magician tries to invent something new. It's something that other magicians will scratch their heads over.
I suppose you have such a trick.
That's your thing. It's the one they're going to remember me for.
What happened?
It was the greatest magic trick I've ever seen.
I need to know how he does it.
He has no trick. It's real.
Every great magic trick consists of 3 acts. The first act is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary, but of course, it probably isn't. The second act is called the turn.
He's obsessed with discovering your method.
The magician makes this ordinary something do something extraordinary. Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it. That's why there's a third act called the prestige. This is the part with the twists and turns, where lives hang in the balance.
Do it! Come on!
And you see something shocking you've never seen before.
This was built by a man who can actually do what magicians pretend to do. Real magic.
I know what you really are.
How does he do it? You want the truth.
Nothing is impossible.
Abracadabra.
No more secrets.
Secrets of my life.
In the story of The Prestige, this is set in London in the 1800s, where you have 2 rival magicians played by Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, who read each other's diaries containing the secrets of their magic tricks and their personal lives. As we go back in time when the diaries were written, both magicians become obsessed with their rival's best trick. The tricks, as shown to the audience, look the same, but neither magician can figure out how his opponent does it. It's a battle basically between 2 magicians, and adding a little bit of what Christopher Nolan does so well, and you've got another fantastic film. Now, keep in mind, this movie is very interesting for a number of different reasons. One, it's his first big movie after Batman Begins, and this was before everyone considered him a box office draw and a critical darling, because his movies beforehand were hits, but they weren't the gargantuan hits that they have become nowadays. And I think at the time, this was seen as a little bit of an underperforming movie at the box office, even though it made back its budget of $40 million, and it had both Touchstone and Warner Brothers, Disney and Warner Brothers, behind the film. And it's a film that most people see as kind of the lesser of the Christopher Nolan movies, from what I remember, but I mean, I remember really liking the hell out of this movie. I mean, yeah, it's hard to top Batman Begins, which was his magnum opus at the time, but man, this is such a good movie, and it still holds up really well after all these years, and it's gotten even better than when you think about it. You got a star-studded cast that includes Michael Caine as well, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, Andy Serkis, David Bowie as Nikola Tesla, which I think is the most criminally underrated performance in the movie. I mean, David Bowie just shines whenever he's on screen as Tesla, no pun intended. But the movie is visually gorgeous too, and it's an engaging mystery thriller. Like, you really don't know how these magicians, who's going to come out on top in this, and there's really two different sides to each story, and the film does a very good job of expanding the details of how these magicians do their craft and how one is going to upstage the other and who's going to come out on top in the end. You really don't know who's going to come out on top until you see the film, and what they do with it is very well done. And it features a lot of the same people that made Batman Begins work in terms of the production crew. The cinematographer is back for this, so is the production designer, the editor, And of course, many people from Batman Begins, including Bale and Kane. I mean, just a lot of this movie just works incredibly well. It's a wonderfully put together movie, an engaging mystery, a really enjoyable film. I love the hell out of it. I've got nothing else more to say about this film that hasn't already been said. Just a fantastic film. If you have not seen The Prestige, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, especially if you've seen a lot of Christopher Nolan's other great works. This is definitely one that's a must-see. I highly recommend The Prestige.
Roll call working Tuesday, September 11th. As always, watch each other's backs.
On a day that changed America.
Be prepared for everything. Not this.
Families united.
We know he's alive.
Strangers became brothers.
Someone says stop, you don't stop.
And a nation stood as one.
9/11 showed us goodness we forgot could exist. People taking care of each other for no other reason than it was the right thing to do.
World Trade Center, rated PG-13.
So this is, as I said before, the second official movie released after about the events of September 11th. We already had United 93 earlier in the year, which is definitely the better of the two movies. But this is one that kind of gets pushed off to the side. And honestly, I think it deserves a lot more love than it actually gets. You have a story that is based off the experience of a team of New York City police officers during the September 11th attacks who get stuck inside the rubble of the collapsed World Trade Center, including two cops played by Nicolas Cage and Michael Pena. And, yeah, most of the movie is just them trying to survive this event, is being stuck underneath the rubble of the trade towers. And this is a really good movie, man. This is a film that I think deserves a lot more attention. I mean, yeah, United 93 is a much better movie in terms of creating atmosphere and tension, with Paul Greengrass's unique directing style. This movie, I think, works a lot because there's so many things about it to admire about it. Like, I love, the greatest scene in the movie to me is early on when you see them inside of the building and it's coming down and you see everything around them just collapsing and they're just trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get out of here, and you just see them trying to get to the elevator shaft to protect themselves, and of course they can't get out in time because they're stuck in the rubble. And it's a very tension-filled scene overall. I mean, when you watch the 9/11 documentary that came out about a year after the attacks on CBS, they show you the actual video footage of the towers collapsing as everyone's trying to get out of there. And yeah, they do a pretty good job of creating a very, very realistic-looking scenario in the situation here. And this is a very, very good movie, mostly because of how great the performances by Nicolas Cage and Michael Pena are. You got great performances all around, too, by Maggie Gyllenhaal, Maria Bello, Stephen Dorff, Jay Hernandez, Michael Shannon. A lot of really good talent involved in this movie, and it is a very uplifting film overall. Like, United 93 was not afraid to go as dark as it needed to tell its story, and that's these two movies are great parallels. You have a darker movie in United 93 that it's not afraid to tell you the cold, hard truth. And this movie is telling you the same thing, but it's giving you a much more uplifting story, and a story that, you can feel really happy about when you see these guys getting out of here, being some of the few that actually survived this. And it's a really good movie. It's a very impressive film, a really terrific film, one of Nicolas Cage's most underrated performances, in my opinion, and a film that definitely deserves a lot more attention. I don't think a lot of people ever talk about it as much as they do with United 93, but it's definitely a film I highly recommend. I think it's a very enjoyable film. Definitely worth a watch. Give it a watch. Probably the last great thing Oliver Stone ever directed, quite honestly, the more I think about it. But I really like it a lot. I highly recommend it. World Trade Center.
I don't have an MD or law degree. I have a bachelor's in kicking butt and taking names. I get paid to talk.
What do you talk about?
I speak on behalf of cigarettes.
My mom says cigarettes kill.
Now, is your mom the doctor?
No.
Well, she doesn't exactly sound like a credible expert now, does she? Yeah. We call ourselves the Mod Squad. MOD, Merchants of Death. We're lobbyists for the tobacco, alcohol, and firearms industries. How many alcohol-related deaths a year?
Well, does that
100,000? That's what, 270 a day? Tragedy. I front an organization that kills 1,200 people a day.
Dad, I want to see what you do.
The message Hollywood needs to send out is smoking is cool. And put the sex back into cigarettes.
Get a flight to LA, I'll get you a meeting with Hollywood super agent Jeff McGowan.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring your dad in now. Is there anything I can get you, like an orange juice or a coffee or a Red Bull? No thanks. Okay.
But what we need is a smoking role model, a real winner.
Indiana Jones meets Jerry Maguire.
Right, on 2 packs a day.
This spring, don't hide the truth.
We don't sell Tic Tacs, we sell cigarettes. And they're cool, available, and addictive. The job is almost done for us.
Just filter it.
The #1 killer in America is cholesterol. And here comes Senator Finister, who's clogging the nation's arteries with Vermont cheddar cheese. The great state of Vermont will not apologize for its cheese.
What happens when you're wrong?
See, Joey, that's the beauty of argument. Because if you argue correctly, you're never wrong.
This is a heated issue. Nick, do you have a question?
How on earth would Big Tobacco profit off of the loss of this young man? It's in our best interest to keep Robin alive and smoking. Have you heard of a reporter?
Heather Holloway. My other interviews have pinned you as a mass murderer, bloodsucker, pimp, profiteer, and my personal favorite, guilty Mephistopheles.
I'm a man of the people.
Rock on, Kennedy. Family now. Tobacco takes care of its own.
Michael Jordan plays ball. Charles Manson kills people. I talk.
Thank you for smoking.
Sony has a futuristic sci-fi movie they're looking to make.
Cigarettes in space.
It's the final frontier, Nick.
But wouldn't they blow up in an all-oxygen environment?
Probably. But it's an easy fix. One line of dialogue. Thank God we invented the, whatever device.
I mean, Hollywood in the nutshell right there, that last line from Rob Lowe. Thank God for the whatever device. Like, that's Quid and MacGuffin, that type of thing. But thank you for smoking. This is the directorial debut for Jason Reitman, who, of course, is the son of Ivan Reitman, starring Aaron Eckhart as a big tobacco chief spokesman who lobbies on behalf of cigarettes using heavy spin tactics while also trying to remain a role model for his 12-year-old son. They've got a stacked cast that includes Maria Bello, Adam Brody, Sam Elliott, Katie Holmes, David Koechner, Rob Lowe, William H. Macy, J.K. Simmons, Robert Duvall, and a really, really interesting movie when you really look at it, because the main hero of the film can also be seen as the bad guy in here. You have a guy here that's trying to sell people cigarettes, and we know now that cigarettes have all these negative side effects to it, but you need a guy like Aaron Eckhart's character to give you these buzzwords to use to sell these products to people that you would never think you'd be able to sell them to. And the movie does a very good job of creating a character that knows what he's doing is probably not a good thing in terms of long-term health, but he also has to know that how to be a role model to his son, played by Cameron Bright. And this movie has a lot of interesting turning points throughout the course of the movie. There's actually an alternate ending where, if they went with it, Aaron Eckhart's character would have gone completely against everything that he had been beforehand. And I'm kind of glad they got rid of that scene in general here. And it's just it just feels so out of character in here, because what makes this movie great is Aaron Eckhart is so confident in what he's saying. He's so believable in what he's trying to tell people, to the point where William H. Macy, there's a point towards the end of the movie where, there's a big thing where, he's talking about, if your son wanted a cigarette, what would you say to him? And, Aaron Eckhart gives this impassioned speech at the end about it. William H. Macy is telling him, what if he turns 18 and he wants a cigarette? Are you going to buy him that? And Aaron Eckhart's just if he wants a cigarette, I will buy him his first pack. He is so impassionate with what he's doing and trying to convince everybody that smoking is actually okay. And I think it's such an incredible, unique spin on a character like this that we really don't usually see, especially with a guy with the background that he has here. And you got to give the movie a lot of credit for doing that with a character like this, and that's the beauty of what Jason Reitman does. He makes these movies that are not just movies that are being made because he's a nepo baby. Of course he's the son of Ivan Reitman. I mean, just recently I saw his latest film, Saturday Night. This guy is such a great director because he doesn't just make blockbuster comedies like his dad did. He'll go in there every once in a while, like Ghostbusters Afterlife, for example, but he makes these smaller movies, and they're just so unique in how they're handled, how he films them, how he writes them. It's just that's what this really take away from this movie: the brilliance of what Jason Reitman brings to the table. And this is a movie that does show everything that what makes Jason Reitman so special, and somebody so unique for the time period. And of course, he would follow it up with Juno. He followed it up with Up in the Air. He really is one of the best directors we have right now, and it started with this movie right here. Not much more I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said. It's a fantastic film. One of my favorite movies of all time, from one of my favorite directors of all time. Thank you for smoking. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Everything fine, you're not moving. I'm being followed by a woman's voice.
This is a story about a man named Harold Crick.
I'm sorry, did you hear that?
Mr. Crick, you have a voice speaking to you.
About me, and with a better vocabulary.
Beleaguered and exasperated. Shut up! Cursing the heavens in futility.
No, I'm not. I'm cursing you, you stupid voice, so shut up and leave me alone!
Oh, goody. This woman, Sharon Eichel, one of my favorite authors.
Hi. That's her. That's the voice. She's the narrator.
Little did Harold know that this would result in his imminent death.
What? Come on!
On November 10th,
This isn't a story to me. It's my life.
oh, really? Will Ferrell in a comedy that proves truth
My name is Harold Crick. I believe you're writing a story about me.
Is this a joke?
is stranger than fiction.
I need to speak to Kara Eiffel. I'm one of her characters. And she's going to kill me.
Well, that sounds like a comedy. Rated PG-13. In theaters everywhere, November 10th.
I should probably also point out that he's more than French kissing Sacha Baron Cohen and Talladega Nights. But that's not what I'm trying to get across here. What I'm trying to get across is this great movie that you probably have never even seen because it's not a stupid screwball slapstick comedy like Step Brothers or Talladega Nights is. But no, it's Will Ferrell actually doing something that's more than showing what he could do as his range as an actor. And in this movie, he plays an IRS agent who begins hearing a disembodied voice narrating his life as it happens. Seemingly the text of a novel in which it is stated that he is the main character and he's going to die. And he frantically seeks to somehow prevent his death. He goes to somebody played by Dustin Hoffman. He falls in love with a restaurant owner played by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Emma Thompson is the voice that's narrating his life, and Queen Latifah is somebody who works for the company that she works for, the book company that she works for. And this movie is absolutely incredible. It's an amazing film. It's a good mix of comedy and drama, and it shows what Will Ferrell can do instead of just playing that guy we see, instead of playing a Ron Burgundy or a Buddy the Elf. Like, there are movies where that can work. There are movies where he can be really funny in that. Like a couple really good underrated movies from the year before. Bewitched, Kicking and Screaming. We'll get to a movie with him doing what he does best the following year with Blades of Glory. Yeah, there are times when that can work. There are times when that can be really funny. But there are times when, I want to see him do something more straightforward and restrained. And this movie is definitely that. This is probably one of his best overall films as a whole. And it helps you have a really good director in Mark Forster, who did Monsters Ball, a really good writer in Zach Helm, and just a strong cast for Ferrell to work around with. You're always going to get great performances from Dustin Hoffman and Emma Thompson. Queen Latifah is also really good in the movie. Maggie Gyllenhaal continuing to have a breakout 2006. I think, it's really funny because she hates Will Ferrell's character straight from the beginning of the movie. But then as they slowly but surely come together, and you really do buy into their relationship. You can buy into their chemistry, that these two would have a chemistry together. And I love the build-up that this movie is leaning towards. This movie really is, does a great job of building the storyline up, building the tension, building what's going to happen to this character Will Ferrell is playing. The last 15 minutes of the movie, I think, are absolutely pitch perfect because Will Ferrell finally gets to the point where he has to meet the narrator, and there's a great build up to how the narrator finds out that she's actually creating the world of this guy that actually exists, and the fact that Will Ferrell's willing to go with the idea of going to die, and and the way that the film ends itself is really well done. It's a perfectly put together film. And yet nobody went to go see it. And I think most people didn't go see it because, like I said, been saying again, it's because Will Ferrell wasn't doing anything too brash or too raunchy. The stuff that made his name in the past with Old School, Elf, Anchorman, Talladega Nights. Like, every time he tries to go do something a little bit different, more restrained, 9 times out of 10, it unfortunately doesn't perform well. But it's not because the guy isn't trying his best. I mean, this is a movie where it shows this guy has a ton of range. And we've talked about some movies with him where he's got range. Melinda and Melinda, the Woody Allen movie, I think is a very good example of that. He's going to be he'll do other movies down the road that show what this guy can do as an actor as a whole. And I think this movie is a perfect example of him branching out and trying to do something different outside of his norm. And like I said, most people turned away from it because it was more of it wasn't just a straightforward mainstream raunchy comedy. It's a thinking man's movie. You have to think about it as the movie goes along. You have to think, how is this guy going to get out of this? And, it's a restrained performance by Ferrell that I think a lot of people really needed to see, because this was at a time when Will Ferrell's star power was, not saying dying, but certainly was, it wasn't in the same place it was after he had those 2 successful years in 2003 and 2004. And, films like Kicking and Screaming, Bewitched were not the biggest financial hits. Neither was this one. But those are movies that are actually really good. And, of course, Talladega Nights is the big hit of that comedy hit of that summer, which, a lot of people like that movie. I'm so on it. But this, to me, is the best Will Ferrell movie he made in this particular year, and maybe one of his best overall films, no question about it. I think this is a very good movie with a lot of strong performances, a really good storyline. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's got a good mix of comedy and drama. I think it's a fantastic film, and one that definitely deserves a lot more attention than I think it gets. And I think it is slowly but surely building in the decades since it's come out, but I don't think it's quite there yet. I really hope this movie finds its following over time, because it is really a damn good movie that deserves a lot more credit and a lot more attention than it gets. I highly recommend this movie. If you have not seen Stranger in Fiction, you're doing yourself a major disservice, because you're missing out on one of the year's best films, no question about it. Definitely seek this movie out. It's incredible. Stranger Than Fiction.
The message on the machine. On July 26th, one comedy event
Little Miss Sunshine? Little Miss Sunshine?
is causing mass hysteria. Don't miss the film Roger Ebert calls the funniest laugh-out-loud audience pleaser from the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, jeez, I'm being pulled over. Everybody just pretend to be normal.
Little Miss Sunshine, rated R. Don't even think about missing this one.
Oh, I most certainly did not miss this one. When it came into my theater finally, I was there opening weekend. I just had to see this movie, and I'm glad I did, because what more can you say about this movie that hasn't already been said? Little Miss Sunshine. It stars an ensemble cast who play members of a dysfunctional family who take their youngest, played by Abigail Breslin, who's of course the sister of Spencer Breslin, to compete in a child beauty pageant. And the trials and tribulations that happen over the course of this trip. A lot happens in this movie, and really, I friggin' love this movie, man. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great indie comedy that's not afraid to go dark when it needs to, and it goes dark, man. At times, there are times when, it's not afraid to take it to another level, and it just works on a number of levels. There's a lot of great performances all around, a lot of heart to it. It was really one of the first real independent movies that I went out of my way to go check out in a theater, and I'm glad I did, because, like I said, it's just such a great movie. The cast is great. You got Greg Kinnear, Toni Collette giving these great, strong performances, Abigail Breslin making a great leading film debut. The real highlights of the movie are Paul Dano, who doesn't say a lot in this movie, but he gives such a great persona to this character he plays, and you can't take your eyes off of him when he has to speak finally in the movie, because he's got this storyline in here where, he's not talking for a specific reason, and there's a point where, they realize that, he wants this job so badly, and one person has to tell him that, because you have this little specific thing, you can't be this thing. And then when it finally happens, he has to act now. He actually does give it a lot of an element to it that really makes you feel bad for him and really get behind him whenever he has to do something that happens critically in the last big thing that happens in the movie. Of course, you got another great element in Steve Carell, who, this was really his first major dramatic role that he was in, that I saw him in after many years of seeing him as a comedic actor. And, this was years before he finally got a nomination for Foxcatcher. The dude showed he had a potential to be a great dramatic actor right from the beginning here. And I think he's shown time and time again how great of a comedic actor and a dramatic actor he can really be. And the last big highlight of the film, man, Alan Arkin, who famously won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor over Eddie Murphy. And as much as I would have loved to see Eddie Murphy win it for Dreamgirls, I'm sorry, man. I loved Alan Arkin in this movie. He's great as the grandfather. He's great in this film. He definitely deserved to win the Oscar. And It was just a really good. It was just a really solid performance that was perfectly solidifying what made Alan Arkin's career great as a whole. Because he was also a great comedic actor back in the day before he eventually evolved into the dramatic actor that he eventually became. And like I said, he gives it 110% performance in this movie that just plays so very well in this film. And I love the movie builds up to provide a lot of great social commentary on the concept of kitty beauty patches. This was done years before we get these controversies about what's going on at these kids' beauty patches. They did this years before those, and the ending of this movie, the way that they come to this conclusion when they realize how messed up these pageants are, is just so pitch perfect. It is one of the most satisfying conclusions for a movie that I have ever seen in my life. And it's a shame that these two directors have not really done much since then. They've done a couple movies I really like too, like Ruby Sparks. They did Battle of the Sexes, with which also starts Steve Carell and also Emma Stone, which I thought was really great. But this is easily their best movie. Little Miss Sunshine is one of the quirkiest, funniest, most heartwarming comedies of recent memory, and you are definitely doing yourself a major, major disservice if you don't check this movie out. It is more than worth it. One of the best movies of the year, easily, Little Miss Sunshine.
What you waiting for?
Hang on for the year's coolest ride.
That's enough. I feel your love.
From Warner Brothers Pictures
Drop back anytime, rubber butt.
comes the adventure
Bow down to the man,
that will bring the world
Show me what you got.
to its feet.
What's the big meaning?
Rated PG-13 at IMAX November 17.
Who would have guessed that this movie, of all the animated movies released in 2006, would have the much more lasting impact than most of the other movies that came out this year? But this is the first animated feature by George Miller, and it's set up in the cold land of Antarctica, where you follow a penguin named Mumble, played by Elijah Wood, who's an emperor penguin who's able to tap dance brilliantly despite lacking the ability to sing a heart song to attract a soulmate. After being continuously ridiculed and rejected by his peers and even his own father, played by Hugh Jackman, who was having a pretty big year in 2006, Mumble departs on a journey to learn what is causing the local fish population to decline and to find himself along the way. And, yeah, if you think this movie is about nothing but tap dancing penguins, you have clearly not seen this movie, because, good lord, they take this to the most insane levels possible. And I love it for that. I mean, this movie is absolutely incredible. Like, I really found myself really enjoying this movie. I enjoyed it right from the get-go, and every time I see it, almost 20 years later, it is not disappointing in any way, shape, or form. It's a film that still holds up after all this time, and it just shows you what George Miller can do, man. Like, this is the guy that we talked kind of about it last week with Ridley Scott, where he was trying to experiment with other genres, like with that movie A Good Year, which did not work very well, and he's proven that he can do other genres besides the big action movies or just sci-fi movies in general. George Miller, I think, has done that a lot better. I mean, he proved it this year with still showing that he's still got what it takes to make a damn good Mad Max movie after all these years. He's done a lot of these movies that are so different from one another. And George Miller is still one of those guys that's, I think, I get excited for more whenever I hear a new movie of his comes out, because it's just like, okay, this guy makes a ton of really good movies, so that are very much outside of their norm. So I'm very pumped to see what he does next. And yeah, this is another one of those movies that really shows what this guy is capable of doing, and he does a phenomenal job directing this movie. And not only that, like, the movie itself just really goes much deeper than you would have thought possible. Like I said, it's not a movie about tap dancing penguins, despite the movie's marketing campaign making it seem like it's just going to be nothing but, tap dancing penguins or a jukebox musical. It is in there. A lot of that is in there, but there is a much more deeper story in here that gets a little bit political at times. Not to the point where you completely, not to the point where it's completely obviously out in the open. No, it is very subtle. It's very subtle with its environmental message. It's very subtle with its political message, and it really doesn't go the route that you think it's going to go. And that's what I really like about the movie. I love that this film doesn't go down that route that could have easily destroyed this movie. it does something kind of similar to what the old Sonic Saturday TV series used to do, where they also had a subtle message about, protecting the environment, and there's a little political thing going on here. And it was a great show, a criminally underrated show that has definitely gotten its popularity over the decades since it's been on the air. And this movie was a hit right from the get-go, so much so that it actually became the 4th non-Disney or Pixar film to win an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. I mean, this thing beat out Cars, this thing beat out Flushed Away. I think there was another animated film that was up for it. I think Monster House was nominated this year too. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, out of all the movies that this was nominated for, the fact that it won Best Animated Feature was actually kind of a surprise to everybody, because everyone thought Cars was going to take it after it won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature. I think that was the first year the Golden Globes had the Animated Feature Award, and everyone just thought that, well, it's a Pixar movie, Cars is going to win it. And no, people went with Happy Feet, and I'm glad they did, because it is definitely the far superior film over Cars. It also helps that you have such an amazing voice cast to work with this film, not just Elijah Wood and Hugh Jackman, as I mentioned before, but Robin Williams is great in this. Brittany Murphy is very good for the role that she's playing in here, playing the love interest to Elijah Wood's character. Nicole Kidman playing his mother is very good. Hugo Weaving has a lot of good roles in this. Anthony LaPaglia, Steve Irwin. This was actually the last thing he did before he passed away. Just a really good movie, and just a lot of things about it that I really love about it that still hold up to this very day. It's a really damn good movie, and one that I always go back to, every once in a while, and I'm always still impressed on how well this movie holds up. They actually did make a sequel to this, which, yeah, it's not a good sequel, but by any means necessary, although it does have one of my favorite moments in cinema history. And when we get to that movie, I'll definitely delve into that, but I'll just say this. The Bridge of Light sequence in Happy Feet 2 is absolutely amazing. If the rest of the movie had been as good as that, I would have given that movie much more, just the same amount of praise as the original Happy Feet, but the original Happy Feet does still hold up, though. After all these years, it's still a fantastic film. What more can I say, man? It's a masterpiece. I recommend it a lot.
Even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them. Be a great people, Kal-El, they wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son.
Oh, I can already hear the DC cinematic fanboys giving me shit for what I'm about to say, because, sorry, I don't care. Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill Superman movies pales heavily in comparison to what will always be the best modern-day Superman movie, at least until the James Gunn movie comes out next year. That is Superman Returns, and I know this movie gets a bad rap, but I'm sorry. It's the better Superman movie than Man of Steel. With Man of Steel, Zack Snyder was clearly trying to turn Superman into Batman, and he just isn't. Don't even get me started on Batman v Superman, where Snyder just butchered not only Superman, but also Jar Jar Lex Luthor with Jesse Eisenberg's performance. That's another thing I'm not taking back. Batman v Superman is this generation's Phantom Menace, one of the worst movies from the last decade. What Bryan Singer does is bring Superman back to the Christopher Reeve style, while also trying to make it stand out and make it his own, like what Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan were able to do with their own style of Batman. Does it work all the way through? No. No, it doesn't, but there was certainly more about it to this movie that I enjoyed than most of what was in Man of Steel. It didn't need to go for a darker tone like Man of Steel did. It doesn't need to go bleak and look so bland like Man of Steel did. And it certainly didn't need to be a boring, long heap of a movie like Man of Steel is, even though Superman Returns does that too, but not as badly. But let's talk about the movie itself. You have Superman, after eliminating General Zod and the other Kryptonian arch-villains, Ursula and Nun. Superman leaves Earth to try to find his former homeworld of Krypton after astronomers have supposedly found it. This movie takes place after the events of Superman 2, and just kind of forgets Superman 3 and 4 exist, which, that's good. Neither one of those movies are great either. When he finds nothing but remains, he returns home to Earth to find out that Lois Lane, played by Kate Bosworth, is engaged to a relative of his boss, the boss being played by Frank Langella, and Lois's fiancé is played by James Marsden, and that Lex Luthor, played by Kevin Spacey, is at it again, after swindling an elderly, terminally ill woman, who was actually played by Noelle Neal, the original Lois Lane on the 50s George Reeves show. The psychopathic Luthor who plans to destroy California failed because of Superman's heroics, vowing vengeance against the Man of Steel and contriving a new sinister plot using the crystals of Krypton to build a continent that will wipe out most of North America. Embedded in the continent's structure is kryptonite, the lethal substance that is Superman's only weakness. Upon learning of Luthor's sinister scheme, Superman must race against time to stop the psychotic Luthor before millions, possibly billions, are killed. Now, a lot of people are mixed on this movie. A lot of people hate it because it isn't the Superman movie they want to see. It's not really a new rendition like Man of Steel, but it's mostly an homage to the original Superman films by Richard Donner. But honestly, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's the same Superman we got from the good old days, but you know what? After all the things they did to him in the third and fourth movie, and especially what comes in the Zack Snyder movies, which we'll get into that in a little bit, I'm glad that we got a fun, good old-fashioned Superman movie out of this, and that's what I really like about the movie. The casting is one of the biggest sticking points with a lot of people because of their age, but honestly, I thought Brandon Routh did a very good job playing Superman. He keeps the majority of what makes Superman what he is, and he's great in the movie as a title character. I really liked him a lot. Guy got kind of a bad rap after this movie came out because nothing really opened up for him afterwards. The biggest thing he did after this was Dylan Dog Dead of Night, or even Scott. I take that back. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He was really good in, but Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane I thought was very good in the film. The chemistry between her and Routh works really well, and again, it bears a very close resemblance to the chemistry that Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder had in the first two movies. Also, Christopher Reeve was 26 when he came out as was cast as Superman, and Routh was 25. So the age difference thing, yeah, that's a bullshit argument. I can go there. You also got good performances by James Marsden as Lois' fiancé. He's not playing a stereotypical douchebag boyfriend that we see in movies like this. He does play a sincere, very caring guy, and he's not stupid either. There's a great scene where he's asking Lois if he still loves Superman. He's playing it very straightforward, and I think it's a good scene. It definitely shows what James Marsden's capable of as an actor as a whole, and we'll see that later on down the road with the movies that he would star in later on. The most seasoned players of the film also handled their parts very well. Frank Langella is great as Perry White, but Kevin Spacey just pitch perfect as Lex Luthor. Say what you will about the guy nowadays, because there's a lot of things you can say about him that are very negative, but this guy has 2 Academy Awards for a reason. He's a hell of a damn good actor. And his Lex Luthor captures every aspect of what we come to expect from Lex Luthor, and he makes it his own. He handles it very well. You also have a lot of good supporting performances from people like Sam Huntington as Jimmy Olsen, Parker Posey playing Lex's henchwoman, Miss Tess. Is it Miss Tessmacher in this movie, or is it somebody else? It's a different character, even though this is technically based off the Taskmaster character played by Valerie Perrine in the original 70s Superman movie. So I wasn't too far off. So I'll give myself a little bit of credit for that. But Cal Penn has a couple of brief scenes as Lex's henchman. The film utilizes old Marlon Brando clips for some of the scenes where he plays Superman's father, and they're used effectively. They're not just there to just be like, just there because of, exploitation. They actually do play a part in the storyline in general. I thought a lot of the action sequences and visual sequences were very well done. That one shot where Superman is just listening to people all over the world on the edge of the earth, and it's just this one log tracking shot. That's incredible to look at. That's my favorite scene in the entire movie. Like, there's also those great scenes where, he's on top of the building fighting this guy with a gun, and, of course, he has that scene where he shoots the gun and it goes right for the eye, but, like, Superman's eyes are so strong that it destroys the bullet before it can even hit him. But now, before you think I'm going to go into this movie with all kind of praise, yes, there are a lot of notable flaws to the film. First off, the story. The main problem with the story is that it does start off very strong, basically saying that Superman 3 and 4 doesn't exist anymore, let's move on. But by that time, by the time the main plot gets halfway through the film, and we find out that they're basically just redoing the same plot from the first movie, I got a little peeved by it, because honestly, I think there could have been a much better story that could have been told without reusing one of the same plots from the previous films. I give the movie credit for trying to add different elements to it than instead of including having the plan actually happening and you seeing the damage and the cause of the damage of what the Lex's plan was going to do. I think it benefits by adding those scenes, but yeah, it's not a very well put together story when it's literally copying elements from the first film. The runtime, yes, it does run 3 hours long, and while Batman Begins and The Dark Knight can get away with a long runtime and all that, it's because they have a lot of great things going towards them, and they keep the audience invested in what's going on. But in this movie, there are a lot of points where the movie could have ended, and adds a lot of these pointless scenes that just drag on for no particular reason whatsoever. And the biggest... Sorry about that, I had to burp. But the biggest flaw with the film is the whole secret about Lois's son. There's a whole subplot about Lois's little kid who his father really is, which, I mean, if you can't figure it out by the time they started it, that you really have to, it's like you really need to examine your head, because good lord, like, that's one, I like this movie a lot, but when they first introduced this kid and everyone's just like, nobody really knows who the father is, it's like, really? Nobody knows who the father is. Like, first of all, one of the problems with this kid is that he doesn't have one word of dialogue in this movie, and he can't speak. Like, I guess he has the same problem as the kid from Scrooge, who couldn't speak after his father died. And two, we know nothing about him before he has this big scenes in the second half of the movie. So, why are we supposed to care about him? Because he's a little kid in the movie? But like I said before, the biggest thing about this is that what really ticked me off was that it's the obvious attempts that they try to convince us that this kid is really Superman's kid. There was literally 4 scenes in the second half where they literally pulled it out of the open, and Lois doesn't even give it a second thought. It's just like, that's weird. Like it would be the equivalent of turning around and seeing that your house is on fire, and then you're just like, well, that's very peculiar. And then every time you look back at it, that like your house is completely like all the way to the ground. It's just like you never put it together. It's just she never puts it together that Superman's kid, and it's just like, come on, like, if I could figure it out right from the get-go, that's bad writing right there. And it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I can understand people being very frustrated with that, because I was certainly frustrated with that too. But regardless of all of that, of the 2 reboots that have come out for the Man of Steel, Superman Returns is, my opinion, the far superior reboot. It has an interesting story that takes place after the first 2 Superman movies. It's a film that has a good cast that works well with it. Everybody in the story acts like who they're supposed to be. You have a director who knows Superman and clearly has an idea of what kind of a movie he wants to make with him. The action sequences are great. The music is great. The visuals are impressive. It's a great action film. It's by no means a classic, by any means necessary. It has a ton of flaws to it, but it did a better job of bringing Superman back into the mainframe than Man of Steel did. I'm in that minority, but I don't give a shit. Superman Returns is the better reboot, in my opinion. Now, James Gunn's Superman movie that is in production right now, everything that I'm hearing about it looks really, really good. Everything about it has a lot of the same things that I was looking forward to with this movie. James Gunn clearly has an idea of what to do with Superman, and from the early stuff we've seen from it, it looks like it's gonna be that type of a movie that Superman Returns was, except hopefully on a more mass appreciation level than Superman Returns did. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what James Gunn brings to the table with it, but until then, this is still the better reboot of the Superman series in a modern setting. Go at it with me, and yeah, I will be more than happy to take your comments down below, and constructive criticism, people, because if you're just going to if you're not going to give me any real criticism for this, I'm going to delete the comments, because I have that power to do that. I mean, I have the power to do it with these hands. But yeah, so yeah, that's my 10-minute review of Superman Returns. No joke.
Service to San Francisco. The temperature is 72. On our way as quickly as possible. 93, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff. United 93, traffic 37 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370. United 93, verify level 350. United 93, level. United 93, level. United 93, the equivalent to our head. Get out of here! Up to 50 knots. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a level 4 Hello? Honey, it's me. My flight has been hijacked.
We're turned around.
2 planes into the World Trade Center. They flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center. We gotta assume it's the same guy. We gotta assume it's the same guy.
Oh my god. I think we're heading to Washington.
Oh, we have to do something.
We're running out of time.
I think they're going to do something stupid. There are a bunch of us here we can overwhelm them. Yes, we can take them down.
Weapons, we've got what we have. We are going to take back the cockpit.
Mom, I have to go. They're about to storm the cockpit. I love you.
So the controversy behind this movie in general was because of mostly the fact that, like I said, this was the first official theatrically released movie that is digesting into the events of September 11th, 2001, where mostly centering around the events around United Airlines Flight 93, and as you see in that trailer there, the film was originally going to be called Flight 93, but I think another movie had already bought the rights to that title, and so they eventually used it for that. Getting back to the synopsis here, Flight 93, of course, was one of the 4 hijacked flights during the September 11th attacks on America. Flight 93 was the only plane to not hit its intended target due to the intervention of passengers and crew. The film also covers the experiences of government officials and traffic controllers. Many of them are played by themselves as they witness the other events of the attacks unfolding that day. And it's done in a real-time perspective, so there's a sense that the film takes place over the exact same amount of time that the real-life events beginning from the plane's takeoff start to take shape. There is a disclaimer at the beginning, though, that some imagination had been used to tell the story. Overall, United 93 was made with the people involved with the passengers' families, and many of them attended the premiere, and there were few that didn't support the film and didn't participate in any of the film's activities. So there was that controversy of mostly the fact that this was a studio-driven film, and everyone was looking at it going like, is it too soon to do this? Yeah, it's 5 years after the events, but we would have a couple of these movies that could, and not just in theaters, but TV as well. I think ABC had the 9/11 Commission Report miniseries, I think, that came out around the same time. And then later in the year, Oliver Stone will direct a movie with Paramount, World Trade Center, which I think of the movies that released this year, that one's the most underrated movies in general. But this is the one that everyone remembers mostly. I remember going to see this movie after I saw RV, and I went to the theater. It was a packed theater because where I live, Somerset County, where the plane actually went down, is about, I think, maybe about an hour away from here. So I actually went there once when we were going out to Ocean City and we were just driving past the flight memorial. It was the 20-year anniversary of September 11th when we were driving, so we went down there. It's really impressive to look at, man. Like, you go down there and it's just a straight line, and then you just see the empty area where the plane had crashed, and everyone's just dead silent. And I've actually taken some video of this on the trip down there, so if I can, I'll go ahead and put the link to that in the corner as well, so you can go check that out, because like, it's an experience if you've gone down there. Like, it's amazing to see how this place is just so quiet, and like not a single person makes a sound while they're watching this. Nobody's on their phones talking. They're just taking a look at all the area where the plane's hit. It's just really impressive. It's really impressive, that kind of experience. But like I said, when I went to see this, it was a packed theater. There were people coming in and standing on the sides where the exits were to watch this movie because of how close this plane was when it went down on September 11th. And it's just a really good movie. Paul Greengrass directed this, who had found success with The Bourne Supremacy a couple years prior to this, and this was a movie that really propelled him as that great director that he would eventually become at following this, because he would do The Bourne Ultimatum. He would do a lot of other movies as well following this, and he's a great filmmaker in general, and he does a fantastic job of helping the audience recapture that moment in time when, you know, this moment in our history took place, and giving us a perspective from inside the plane of how these people took down these terrorists to stop this plane from crashing into Washington. And you know, it's just a very intriguing film in general here. And there are notable character actors involved in this movie. Not a lot of big names in general, but names you would be familiar with if you saw their faces. Like Cheyenne Jackson, you've seen him in a couple things, a lot of stuff for like 30 Rock, and he was in the Munsters reboot Mockingbird Lane. David Allen Bosch is a character actor you've seen many times before. Denny Dillon was on Saturday Night Live. David Raish, of course, was on Sledgehammer back in the day. If this is the same, yeah, Sledgehammer. You also have Greg Henry, who's an actor back in the day too. I can't remember. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Or Olivia Thirlby, who would later be seen the following year in Juno. There are names in here, but they're mostly character actors, and you really, once you see the names and you see the faces that they're attached to, if you know the stuff they've been in before, you get kind of an idea of who's who in the movie. And it does a very good job of not making this a star-studded movie in general, and having the stars be in control of the film in general. Like World Trade Center has more of a star power to it because it has Nicolas Cage and Michael Pena at the top of the cast in general. But even that movie does a pretty good job of not letting the star power get to them in that sense. This movie, I think, also does a very good job. Does probably a better job of creating realistic fictional characters out of people that we've seen in many films similar to this in general. And I've talked about, and the subject matter is also very good too, how they handle this. I've talked about in the past how, you know, my September 11th, or what happened on September 11th with me. I've talked about that in several videos in the past. I'm sure you could definitely find it on this channel too. But what's interesting about this and World Trade Center is that it definitely shows a contrast in terms of its ending. This one obviously has the more tragic ending, because even though they stopped the plane from going to where it was going, all these people still died on the plane, and you know, that's just a tragedy of that day in particular. But in World Trade Center, there is more of an uplifting message, because Nicolas Cage and Michael Pena's characters are two of the only 20 people that survived, you know, being stuck in the rubble during the when they were inside the World Trade Center. And you can definitely look at both of these movies and see a definite contrast in its endings. And what I really like about both of these movies in general, this one shows you the cold, hard reality of what happened on that day, and World Trade Center also does that too, but gives you that whole optimism when they bring those guys out of the rubble. And I mean, this is just such an amazing film, man. I can't recommend this one enough. It's definitely one of the best movies of the year. Definitely was a movie that was way ahead of its time. It was a film that definitely should have been probably made, well, a couple more years down the road, just so, not 5 years afterwards, but it got made, and I'm glad it did, because it made for an incredible movie in the process. I can't recommend this one enough. United 93, definitely see it if you haven't seen it already.
The cop and my crew.
No Wyatt ever, you understand? You don't know what this is like.
I can get the rat. You just let me do it my way.
There was a leak from the inside, man. Smoke him out. What are you waiting for, honestly? You wanted to chop me up and feed me the poor?
The Departed, a Martin Scorsese picture, rated R.
If we're being honest, Martin Scorsese should have won an Oscar for Raging Bull and also Goodfellas, but hey, it took him 26 years after Raging Bull and 16 years after Goodfellas, but this is a movie where he finally got the respect he deserved, and rightfully so, because this is an incredible friggin' movie. This film takes place in Boston, where you have an Irish mob boss played by Jack Nicholson, who plants a mole played by Matt Damon with the Massachusetts State Police, and the two characters are loosely based on famous gangsters, Whitey Bulger and John Connolly, corrupt FBI agent who grew up with Bulger. Simultaneously, the police assigns an undercover state trooper played by Leonardo DiCaprio to infiltrate his crew, and when both sides realize the situation, the two cops both attempt to discover the other's identity before their covers are blown. And really, there's not much more to say about this movie that hasn't already been said. I mean, this is a phenomenal movie that was nominated for several Oscars, won several of them, including Best Picture, Best Director for Martin Scorsese, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, and Mark Wahlberg was even nominated for Best Supporting Actor, which, He's a guy that I think has long deserved an Oscar. I mean, he's done a lot of great stuff that is very much Oscar-worthy, but just never can get that movie overall. Never can get that movie that can push him over the top. But really, there's not much more I can add to this film that hasn't already been said. This is, without a doubt, the best Martin Scorsese film ever. And trust me, that is saying a whole lot because of what this guy has been able to do over the course of the last 4 decades. Even more than that, 5 decades. But a great cast with star talent all across the board. DiCaprio, Damon, Nicholson, Scorsese himself is in here, Alec Baldwin, Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Anderson. Fantastic set design, a fantastic ending that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. This is this generation's Godfather. I don't know why I believe that, but that's the thought that came into my mind. Not much more to say. The Departed, a masterpiece. Check it out if you haven't seen it already.